Tune in to the Foxhole Competitive League this Saturday, August 31st at 1100 Eastern Standard Time as 4 teams prepare to hit the ground for the first time here in Season 4. Soyusetsuka versus Foxhole Press Division and Armored Cavalry versus the Vanguard. What lessons will the teams learn from last week's talks and nice victories? Who will emerge victorious in this 3-hour 20v20 on Fisherman's Row? Tune in to the Foxhole Competitive League this Saturday, August 31st to find out. All right, check. Mothman, can you hear me in there?
You're all set.
All right, great. Well, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps, your after-action report and discussion forum, at least what it's turned into here in the Foxhole War, the 36th conflict here in the Foxhole War. I'm Geoffrey Jennings, and joining me here is member of the PressCorps, Mothman 47. How are you, Mothman?
I'm doing outstanding. How about yourself, Geoffrey?
I'm holding on for dear life, but here we are. Well, the 36th conflict, what so much to make of it, so much controversy, so much bitter victory and defeat for both sides. Where do we even start to cover this, Mothman?
I don't know, honestly. It started out pretty well. I think we had a really good. I think everybody hit the ground running at the start of this war, and I think somehow around midway through, it just started to peter off, and it just kind of ground down to a very slow crawl.
Yeah, the Colonials were the first ones to cross the middle threshold, I believe.
That's correct.
I'm not sure if they ever fully crossed over into. So this was an east-west conflict. Colonials in the east, Wardens in the west. So we didn't have a Great March or Reaching Trail. Yeah, and
yeah.
So many regions now, but. I don't know if the Colonials were able to fully cross over into the west, but certainly they held the central regions for quite some time before the Wardens came back in, and then it was just constant eastward momentum, maybe a few Colonial counterattacks, but mostly trending towards the east, and then finally swept up in the last couple of days a huge Warden sweep, or rather more of a strike right in the center of the colonial line, and then went all the way to I think. Oh goodness, on the far eastern island in that region.
Well, they pushed all the way into Allad's Bight, and then I imagine they did take the shoreline, and that just kind of, everything just seemed to fall apart at that point for the Colonials.
Yeah, Allad's Bight was separated from Saltbrook Channel and Endless Shore. The Warden, the remnants are still there on the map. You can see it, but it goes right through Johnfield, right through the southeast of Endless Shore, right through Godcross, and yeah, it was a little messy there at the end, but that strikes. What's your count now, Mothman? 4 in a row? 4 victories in a row for the Wardens?
It is 4 victories for the Wardens so far. I do have to admit that I would say I did believe that the Colonials were going to take it. Probably when they were having such success in the middle regions, and it did not seem like they were going to lose at that point. But it looked like things have turned in favor of the Wardens. So that was a pretty interesting finish.
It was, and with 4 victors in a row, something may seem like it's wrong. We have to remember that that's just how the story is written. So maybe 4 in a row, maybe it'll be 5, maybe the Colonials will come back and break the streak, but that's what makes the story. That's what makes things interesting right now. I don't know. There's no law written that it has to be even, does it?
No, there is no written rule that says every war has to be even. Despite people's sentiments to the contrary, unfortunately, war is not pretty and war is not fair.
Except maybe in love. But I will say that some of the greatest sports stories came from horrible loss streaks and just absolute droughts in championships. So keep that in mind. I don't know if you're much of a sportsman yourself, Moth.
I am actually. I do love watching a lot of college football, especially where there's a high drama put in place, especially when the underdog team is down and they start making a comeback. The same thing goes when a team that is back-to-back victors for a certain conference, the conference leaders are down, and people are just like, well, is this the moment where they lose the streak? And they pull it out at the last second, and it just makes for a great finish.
It really does. And you know what? That's a great transition talking about the Foxhole Competitive League. I know it says Community League on the broadcast, but hey, that's just the graphic I was given. But regardless, at FCL, the Foxhole Competitive League, the first 2 matches, official matches, is kicking off the 4th season. Started off this past weekend. You had Salt and Pepper versus Tox, with Tox pulling out of that 3-hour battle, and then Nice versus UBGE, with Nice coming out on top of UBGE there. That second match, much more lopsided. Meanwhile, the first one a little closer to the needle. But a couple of great matches, and we can't wait for this weekend, Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I want to say 1600 GMT. You'll have Soyotsuka, aka the Weebs, versus the Foxhole Oppressed Division, or FOD, and then I believe, unless I'm mistaken, simultaneously, because they don't have enough staff, I think, to cover it, simultaneously, another match will be happening at the same time, which is Vanguard versus the Armored Cavalry. So a couple of very interesting matches coming up this weekend. So, Mothman, what's your take? Did you watch it? Did you catch any of the FCL matches?
I unfortunately had other life issues to be taking precedence, but I did hear there was a lot of positivity behind both matches. I guarantee you these next couple of matches are going to be genuine slobber knockers between both teams. So it's going to be a good one.
Slobber knockers, I love it. Well, if you're just joining us for the first time here on Zero Dark Press Corps, it is a live call-in show, and we'll get to calls very, very shortly. So if you are tuning into the broadcast, go to the link below on the Twitch page, and you can click on the Discord link right there in the picture, bring you into the PressCorps Discord, and from there you can hang out in the lounge, call in through the lounge, and then we'll make sure to drag you in. We've instituted a new caller order. Before we used to just kind of pick them willy-nilly, but make sure to type in something, anything, so that we can get your name first in. So we're going to start off here with Terrento. Terrento, you're our first caller of the evening here on the Post-Conflict 36 Zero Dark Press Corps. How are you this evening?
Oh, hi. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Yes, did you have any questions, comments, concerns, war stories, or other general tales from the 36th conflict here that just ended?
I have my thoughts on the not specifically the current war, but the other wars. It's like I don't know, man. It feels like it's being kind of repetitive.
Repetitive, okay. Uh-huh.
It's just I don't see many changes happening.
Changes in what way? Like how the flow of the conflicts or of the wars, or you're talking about specific mechanics in particular, or what can you specify?
No, it's like it's a little bit of everything that makes this true. At least for in my opinion. Like for example, the wars are like, even though the devs are changing the layouts of starting positions, it always ends up kind of the same for every war. Like I know that, for example, it's diagonal this war. So
Mhm.
like Warden is northeast and colonials are southwest. But like it, I don't know. It just have this weird feeling that colonials have this um, way of getting the south maps and then pushing from north from south. And since endgame matters more, at least for in my vision, it kind of accumulates that.
Sure. Well, there's all sorts of ways that we could spice things up here, and I guess one of the first things I'll go to is the implementation of phases. So, for instance, Foxhole, as we know it, primarily takes place in the war phase. At least I'll call it
Yes.
that. That's full-scale war Foxhole, as we know it, the main game that everyone talks about. And then beyond that, you also have the resistance phase to kind of spice things up. So in the war phase, you have symmetrical warfare, full scale total mobilization between two standing armies. Then in resistance phase, you have asymmetrical warfare, where one side is decidedly more powerful than the other, but the underpowered faction, the resistance faction, kind of plays asymmetrically and has certain things up their sleeve to try and change it up. Now, I think it's safe to say that the resistance phase in its current iteration is very undercooked right now. I think we'd all agree to that.
Yes.
I would say it's a
Yes.
little rare.
Very,
Ninety
very
percent
rare.
of the
Fresh out of the
90%.
freezer, I'd say. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in terms of that, but I think in theory, going forward, once the developers are going to be able to maybe get their hands on it, sink their teeth in, and focus more time and efforts on it, put more unique mechanics to really accentuate the asymmetrical aspect of the two factions. So, you have an occupier faction and a resistance faction. If you really push the boundaries of those two while still finding a balance in terms of how they play, I think that'll really spice things up. And by the time that phase ends, in theory at least, well, by the time that phase ends, you'll be wanting to go back to the grind of a full-scale war. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Terrento?
Yes, yes, I agree to that. That in theory, Foxhole has diverse. You say like the war phase and the resistance phase, and I also agree that you say that the resistance phase is like really bare bones right now. Like I think I can safely say for the majority of the community that we don't like resistance as much as the developers want. And like I think people were really used to the old skirmish, and because it was not as more serious war, and people could actually take a break. But now I don't know, man. For me, resistance just feels like it keeps you for trying to do your best, even though you're burned out from all the war. And like in my opinion, just to and my point, in my opinion, like I know that there's a really reluctant to this, and I understand that, but I think the resistance phase like should be temporarily removed and like taking criticism from the community and like bring skirmishes back, because it's people are just used to it. People like it. It worked, and yeah, that's what I think at least.
Yeah, no, a skirmish really is a great stopgap measure. It's a hard reset, so it kind of interrupts the flow of a persistent world. But as a hard reset, at least physically in the world as well as psychologically, it does its job. So yeah, as a stopgap measure, I think it maybe could be effective. So maybe if it depends. Now it depends, of course, how hard it is internally, because you can't. I doubt if it's able to just flip a switch and be like, oh, turn off resistance, turn on skirmish. So we'll see. I think there's a bit more steps to it than that. Mothman, in terms of repetition, what do you have to say to that? The repetitive nature of things.
I do think that with the new update that came out, I think 26, I believe. I think when that came out and the scarcity itself, it really kind of added a quality of repetition to logistics and combat, because there's now a bigger investment in scrapping and refining and logistics movement, and that there's more time involved in that, not only with driving but just ordering the materials, getting them set up, and all that whatnot. On top of that, I do believe that the resistance mode doesn't really help in terms of breaking that sort of monotony, because it's a very seamless transition from the end war to resistance phase. It'd be kind of nice, in my opinion, is if at a certain point in resistance phase it just changes to skirmish. Maybe after a certain amount of town halls are controlled by the resistance members. But right now, when it comes to the sensation of just monotony itself in game, I can understand that. I've seen it and I've heard it firsthand from other players that they're just kind of feeling burnt out because every war is starting to feel the same.
And it's particularly troublesome because I feel like the developers are constantly having to hit the reset button. Like they kind of have to rush the next war because maybe it falls on a weekend, or maybe you get PAX coming up, PAX West, where the developers are actually. I think they're setting up right now. But I don't know. Terrento, closing thoughts here. I know we could go on for a long time. We got callers, but Terrento, go ahead, close out for us.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
No, did you have any closing comments to that?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. It's just not that simple. Flipping a switch. Oh, here we go. We have fucking skirmish.
But you're saying, why it's going to be a long time till they revisit resistance again. So you're saying, advocating for, hey, maybe do a one-time thing here. Maybe invest the time. Take out, resistance. Maybe put back in skirmish. That's what you're advocating for. At least something more reliable, something of a harder reset until resistance can be fully baked out of the. I don't know why I'm going with the stove analogy, but fully baked out of the oven and a little more palatable. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, not fully finished, but at least in a tolerable way, so people can actually play and not just complain in every channel. But that was my main point. And don't you agree? You like skirmish back in the day too, right?
Mothman?
I did enjoy skirmish mode. I think skirmish mode itself was a very effective way to get new players incorporated into the war effort before, almost kind of like a safe mode for these guys. That way, when they first start out the battle, the things that they do, if they make a mistake, it doesn't feel like it's going to cost anybody the war. They learn from their mistakes in the skirmish mode, and from there, when the real war starts, they can be ready and they understand at least consequences of their actions and how to incorporate themselves into a fighting unit. I think skirmish mode had a lot of benefits to the game community, especially with new players, and I don't believe right now, at least in its iteration, resistance mode is catering to that very well.
Well, Terrento, thank you so much. We'll see what resistance holds for us in terms of breaking up that kind of macro monotony, but thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it.
Don't worry. Just one last thing before I go.
Okay, yeah.
If any of the developers are hearing me, like, just don't try to rush it. It's better to serve something ready and tolerable than just shove it on the players, expecting people to like. That's it.
It's really surprising because that's resistance. The introduction of resistance way back when. That's one of the few times they've ever done that. Usually they're way more ready to pull the trigger on something. I don't know. I guess they just proved themselves right. Maybe they were playing the long game in that argument. But all right, Terrento, thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Right. All right, coming up next here is Falco Master of ARC. Falcon Master, how are you? And welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, how's it going?
Oh my goodness, hello. Well then, yeah, did you have
Very
any...
excited to be here.
Very excited to be here. Thanks for calling in. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, tales of valor, or stories of defeat here in after the 36th conflict?
Well, I'm just wondering when they're ever going to fix the LTs.
Fix the light tanks.
Yeah.
Can you go into specifics? What exactly is, if you said fix, so you imply broken, what exactly is broken about light tanks right now?
Light tanks, at the very moment, they're very expensive, and they're not really they're not really, worth it at the point.
The cost ratio isn't really beneficial to the implementation of the vehicle, correct?
Yeah.
So stop me if I'm deviating, but it sounds like to me this is more of a economics, Foxhole economy, and logistics discussion than more so specifically the light tank.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say.
Well, I think this is going to be a hot button debate. We're going to keep revisiting for everyone in the channel above. But how do we approach this? Is that so much to talk about? Yeah, go ahead, Mothman.
I was in a long discussion in FOD early this morning with a couple of members from both sides, and the conversation it started as such. It almost ties in itself to the population itself. You talk about economics, you talk about the division between labor and work to combat, and the ratio between the two is stacked against combat. And everybody keeps making that meme 20-to-1 ratio. It's a living meme at this point, in reference to the amount of components farmed from one armat. It's a very punishing kind of ratio to look at, especially when you're trying to make something on the battlefield in order to push it out on the front line. And on top of that, the cost effectiveness for a light tank, as I've seen in the what is the cost, Falco? Do you remember what the cost is?
You know what? Not at the moment.
The numbers have changed so much, I can't even keep up anymore. But
I know they reduced the price of the tanks in an earlier iteration, but it doesn't seem to really assist much in the quantifiable aspect of actually getting these vehicles out in the field. It almost seems like people are just waiting for battle tanks when it comes to light tank unlock. Unlocking the light tank is like, okay, yeah, we have that available, but we're not really going to use it because the cost is not really worth fielding unless we have a lot of people doing it. Anyway.
Yeah, we could go in that direction. I guess it's more of a tech tree discussion, and more so just the pacing, because what's in between the light tank and the battle tank in terms of technology? Nothing much, just the field artillery, and that's it, right? Maybe some shells.
Yeah, the field artillery is on par with the tank, I think.
Light tank, yeah.
Yeah, I believe it is, because you can actually tech to field artillery, and you can. I think I'm really bad about following the tech tree as of late, but I do believe you can get satchels and you can get field artillery, and both of those do lead to the light tank. And most people opt for field artillery because that's a positive attack. That's a very positive quantifier as opposed to something designed for engineering and destruction.
Yeah, and then I guess so. The question here is, if we're just talking about quote unquote fixing the light tank, or so watching its pacing, is the light tank obsolete by the time the battle tank comes out? Yes or no? Let's do a hard yes or no just for the sake of argument.
Yeah, I do believe so. Personally.
Yeah, probably.
I think so. Even with because both of the tanks can use the special types of ammunition, and I believe if I remember, I don't want to quote the developers unless I've got it down. But I believe I got this down. Is that the developers want it so that every piece of technology, every weapon, every vehicle, every tool, they want it so that it stays relevant throughout the entire war. Everything from the bayonet to the battle tank, it has its use. Nothing is obsolete, in a perfect world. So how does one fix the light tank when the battle tank's already out?
You'd almost have to. You'd
Yeah,
almost
go
have to do what. You'd almost have to do what the Americans did with the Sherman tank in World War II and just upgrade the gun.
Yeah.
More of a
Upgrade-
glass cannon, maybe.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And you're
I'm
saying
honestly-
you're saying right off the bat, right off the assembly line, or is this more of some sort of upgrade?
And I mean,
The way I would see it is a player with a certain amount of armats comes up with the hammer. You can upgrade the tank from there, and it costs a certain amount of armats, and boom, the tank's upgraded. But it takes some time.
You know, there's a precedent for this. We have the construction vehicle upgrade. We have our first official vehicle upgrade,
Yeah.
and that's still a thing, right? At some point in the tech tree, CVs can now build defenses, construct structures, anything.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, so you have a
And I mean-
precedent for that.
Mhm.
I
I think
Go ahead.
Eagle Sword had a great idea, whereas to like just put like a machine gun on it, whereas that makes it way more useful to like deal with shit like infantry and deal with stuff like infantry and everything. And I feel like that is a great idea to really make it way better than to help it be more useful in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say that one of the inherent deficiencies of the light tank is its lack of anti-infantry. So if you add an infantry, if you add an anti-infantry, doesn't that? Well, that's a modification.
Yeah.
Should there be an offset to that modification? As in,
I think.
yeah, go ahead.
So the way I see it is the offset for the light tank having some sort of anti-infantry capability. You give it a front-mounted machine gun and give it, 14.5, I think is what it is. Give it 14.5, which is like the least used ammunition in the game. You put that behind some sort of tier as well, and then all of a sudden you've got some sort of balance between it, right? Or something to the fact of that, or some sort of intermediate cartridge that requires, that is unlocked once you get that upgrade for the tank.
Yeah, vehicle modifications, and going off of the fact that nothing is ever obsolete, even a vanilla vehicle, so something fresh off the assembly line with no modifications, should never be obsolete as well. So maybe not a straight upgrade, CV aside, but because that's a utility. But in terms of some sort of combat vehicle, maybe make it so that the vanilla option is still a genuine option. So there's some sort of offset to adding a machine gun. Now you can put in less shells, it's a heavier vehicle now, so it moves slower, something like that. I don't know. There's a million ways you can go to the thicket, but having that vanilla option while adding in vehicle modification, adding depth while still keeping things, not making it an absolute necessity to allow to play with that depth. Yeah, that'd be interesting. We'll see in a year when they finally get to that, but along their laundry list of things. But I don't know. Have we followed this? Have we followed this discussion properly? Is this what you intended to talk about? Fixing the light tank?
Yeah, totally. This is perfect.
All right, cool. I'm just always afraid that I deviate so far away. But did you have anything else for us? Anything else you wanted to hit on in terms of that?
In terms of the Reddit, that was fun. If you weren't there, then you weren't there. Everything is deleted now. That's all I wanted to say.
The what?
The subreddit.
Okay, everything's been deleted. I don't know, but okay.
All right then.
All right, well, Falcon Master 3000, thank you so much. Send ARC our regards here at the PressCorps.
My pleasure.
All right, coming up, I just moved the whole studio upstairs. There we go. Coming up next, we have Lek.
Okay.
Grandmaster Lek, welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps. How are you this evening?
I am doing quite lovely. Just got finished watching a beautiful, it's a couple years old, but I watched it with someone special, and it was quite a touching movie.
I'm sorry, what did you watch? What did you watch?
It is it is a little anime type movie. I might be fighting weeaboos like this upcoming weekend, but doesn't mean I can't appreciate some high culture. It was called Your Name. It is a nice little movie.
Oh right, that's the hentai those kids are watching,
Shut
right?
the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Okay.
There you go, weeaboo.
Sure.
No, he's just studying. He's studying the art of his enemies so he can learn their way of
Exactly,
fighting.
Mothman. I like the way you think.
Were there foxes or holes in this movie?
I can safely say there were several craters left in the... I mean, to anyone that's watched, there were several holes. You know the ones I'm talking about. Left by certain comets. Or that might be a bit too much of a spoiler for anyone that hasn't seen it. But were there foxes? I don't recall seeing anyone except you, Geoffrey. You're quite the foxy lad yourself.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know. I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. Lek, did you have anything else for us here?
I have several things to talk about, sir.
Okay.
Namely, the current conflict and the state of the world of Calvia. And to start it off,
Did you just call
I
it
would
Calvia?
like Calvia.
I mean, Siva,
Honestly,
right?
given
Sevia.
given his affiliation,
Fuck you.
I guess
Fuck you.
probably
I don't know
Calvia.
pronunciation
Siva.
already.
It's
Sevia.
Siva.
Siva. Siva. Fuck
Yeah.
you. Fuck you. Okay. Anyway, I found myself having a lovely conversation with a civilian, of all things, who was drafted into the colonial war machine this time around, and he himself has said that he's been conscripted by both sides in the past, and despite that, I couldn't help but having a lovely conversation with this man. For around 5 hours, we sat around, scrapping old vehicles and debris, smelting it down to scrap metal to fuel the war effort, and to look for any lost pieces of tech. And in doing so, between the two of us, or rather 4 of us, there were others, we managed to solely tech up a couple of techs on our own. However, this proved futile as the Warden War Machine keeps plugging on with the attitude of, to quote Pachatuli, we must win, winning is all that matters. We don't care if we act like idiots, winning.
Outstanding. That's a fantastic field report, Lek. I appreciate that.
But in other related news, currently, the world of Sevia currently lacks a little something, I feel.
And
you know what I feel it lacks? No, it's not what you think I'm gonna say. It lacks...
What does it lack, Lek?
It lacks, rather, what it has. What it lacks is the tech tree. It lacks not having a tech tree, to be precise.
It lacks not having something.
Exactly.
This is interesting. Please continue.
That's kind of an assumed position, but go right ahead.
The way I've been detailing it, sir, I have found that when out looking in the wastelands for scrap metal to feed my crying family with money I make by selling it to the colonial government, I've found that tech seems to be lying about everywhere. The question is, why does it all keep disappearing? And the reason I say is bureaucracy, damn it. We need to remove this damned bureaucracy. It keeps getting in the way of our own civilian technological innovations. That's why I propose that I demand, in fact, that the colonial government move to a more libertarian stance where we are in favor of remaining the tech tree at all times, where civilians can make tanks if they so desire. That way, you are not limited by the wealth of yourself or the wealth of the country. You are limited by yourself, and you can band together with your brothers and sisters to make the spiciest of tanks on day 1.
So you're implying that we need to unlock tanks at day 1.
Except, here's the thing though, like all good libertarians, I believe that poor people should suck it, and when you don't have the infrastructure to support yourself, fuck you. You take 2-3 days to make a tank. Versus me, and my big ol' E-peen that can just wave around and say, hey fellas, let's go make a tank, and everyone is like, swoon, I see Lek, I see someone to follow, I see a brave leader, I shall go out and make this tank. And from that I say, we shall go forth and make tanks. And that is what we shall do. Lek 2020 for DevStream.
You know, Lek, you're an asshole, but at least you understand, fully comprehend what being a libertarian really means. So thank you for that.
Exactly.
So
now, I have... Yes?
So we're talking about full deployment of all technology on day 1.
Exactly. Though this is something I deeply support. Because I do not feel as if the current situation is anything but undesirable. Now, in more serious affairs, I believe I should talk about two important things.
Oh, you don't want to
One-
go into any of that? All right, go ahead.
No. I believe I've said my piece on the matter. I believe there are only two things we should be concerned about right now, and that is the mindset of the two unanimous groups, individuals, known as the Wardens and the Colonial. As I've said, I myself primarily act as a scrapper working in the fields to pay rent and keep my family nourished via harvested beans that are made in northern Calvia. Siva, fuck you. Anyway, in order to do this, I need metal. And now you might be thinking this is a circular, where are you going? You're just rambling. And now what I have to say to this is that it's all a matter of mindset. To you, those beans might be far away. To you, you might think all that matters is getting those beans from up in the northern regions. And to that I say, no, what matters is the friends we make along the way. The journeymen, the brothers, the sisters we make. The tales we have to say by the campfire that night. Eating
I don't-
s'mores and... What?
I don't believe people can eat French.
You can't eat Frenchies? Fuck, I've been lied to. Okay. Anyway, back to the story. When you need to get these beans, you might think, oh, I need to feed my family. But here's the thing, you're not feeding a family, you're only feeding your own ego, as you can easily get food for your family by doing a humble job of scrapping, rather than trying to go get those illustrious, elusive beans. And so, I say to you, what you should always do is value what is most humbling and what is most and the friends you make, because if you only value the beans, you'll end up like a certain individual whose name rhymes with High Patch. Wait, no, not rhymes with High Patch, it's Patchy. Everyone knows Patchy. Patchy's an asshole. He only thinks of winning. Though that might be hyperbole, he made a post recently that said something of that nature, and I think it's a horrible mindset. I think you should not focus on getting the beans and instead focus on the friends. Okay, I've said my piece.
Coming up next, we have France of the Red Cross. France, thank you so much for joining us here on Zero Dark PressCorps. How are you this evening?
Oh, you're welcome. I thank you. Yes, I'm fine. It's a little bit rainy here, but it's fine. Should be fine.
Well, what brings you here calling in today? You have any questions, comments, or concerns, or tales of valor, or stories of horrible defeat here for us here in the post-36th conflict?
The Red Cross is not losing the war, but
You can't lose a war you've ever declared a side. You haven't declared a side on, can you?
Yeah.
You're unbeatable.
Look, yes,
you're
we
neutral.
are.
Frankly speaking, you are the most winningest clan in Foxhole.
That's
Undefeated.
exactly what I want.
You can't bring that into FCL or out.
Oh.
Does the Red Cross have an FCL team? I would love to see them. I would love to see 20 of you out there versus, say, Tox or the Armored Cavalry, and just sit there healing each other.
No, we don't have. We are not there because we are medics and we not expect any progress in that fighting and stuff. So yeah, we don't have that team to go.
Well, that's perfectly fine. For those who aren't aware, the Red Cross is a neutral, is that correct? A neutral group dedicated to providing medical aid and relief to all those affected by this here, the Foxhole War. Not particularly, there's no offensive engagement, kind of like how the PressCorps operates, is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing. And did the Red Cross participate here in the 36th?
Yes, we are now. The main thing what we were doing was the humanitarian logistical chain, and that had basic that had a really basic goal that was to deliver medical supplies to the right outpost. Yeah, it seems so easy, but it's not that easy as it looks like. But yeah, we are cooperating with so many clans, and 60% of that are colonial clans, because I don't know why, but wardens are not really like us or what. But yeah, it works like that. That they requested where these supplies are needed, and we deliver it. But we were basically, when we see that the front line is running out of I don't know, gas mask or gas mask filters, then we send one of our trucks or stuff. So yeah, but there was a moment when I don't know where it was. I think Endless Shore. Yeah, I think.
Hmm.
And there was a front line that was running out of everything basically. So we made we made with another clan, another warden clan, one big logistical chain, and there were like 20 trucks delivering supplies, and it looks like I saw some image that where the Red Cross trucks full of supplies are going somewhere, and I don't know where it was or when it was, but it looks impressive.
So what exactly is the Red Cross allowed to transport? What are you allowed to ship out on the roads?
Uh, our guys are allowed uh, to go with just trauma kit, med kit, bandages, gas mask filters, and a smoke grenade is considered as a medical needed.
I see, and so that's part of a red member of the Red Cross and their personal kit, right?
No, it's the only things that they can transport.
Oh, okay. So right down to your shipping manifestos, you're not allowed to ship arms.
Exactly. They can transport everything what they can wear.
Wow. So Mothman, this is actually really fascinating. So you have a specialist logistics outfit that not just specialists in logistics, they're specialists in a specific product line of logistics.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are it's under big humanitarian uh, unit group, and this group is providing these medical supplies and these specific supplies, and yeah, they are responsible for evacuation when there is some rocket danger or something like that. So they are doing many humanitarian things, and that's the wing of the Red Cross that we are proud of.
Well, indeed, you guys are unsung heroes at this point, I believe.
Not just
Yeah,
as medics,
maybe.
but as logistics as well. Uh, so pretty much wherever you operate, you are attempting to guarantee medical supplies as well as gas masks and bandages. I guess the medical supply and smoke grenades. You specialize specifically in producing, transporting, and delivering those items.
Exactly.
I don't think there's
Because
anyone else out there who does that. It's always all encompassing, but no, you only do medical supplies and other associated equipment.
yeah, we do. We do.
That 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 almost sounds like a buff in some sort of RTS or some sort of
It really
strategy.
does.
Yeah,
Like this is a phenomenal thing in my opinion. This is what happens when somebody takes the perception of the meta and just turns it into something really, really like wholesome and effective for everybody involved. Like this is good work you guys are doing.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much, France. If you didn't have anything else for us, there is a promotional film for the Red Cross. It is available on the PressCorps Foxhole desk, of which is linked here in the Discord up above in the channel links. But if you follow that, yeah, there's a promotional video made by the PressCorps' very own Potato, reporter Potato, created that film for France here, and that's how that got to be. So thank you so much, France. Appreciate it.
Yeah, one note,
Mhm.
one little note. If you remember, it was, I don't know, it was May or July, maybe June. I was here at the Dark Press Corp, and we were talking with, we were talking about the Sunhaven Convention Treaty, if you remember, and we really established that, and we have now something more above 100 of signs, but that's that's just a little part of us. So
over 100 signatures for the Sunhaven Treaty.
Yeah, exactly.
If you remove a couple of digits, and that's how many people are following the treaty. No, I'm joking.
There are more people. There are more people that are following this because when they see a Red Cross medic or someone shouting is from Red Cross and he really is, then guys don't shoot them. Basically, like I don't know, 50 or 60% of enemies don't shoot me when I'm shouting this, and they see my tag. So yeah, there are more followers than the signs, basically.
Well, that sounds like a dream, because when Mari shouts, "Hey, I'm a member of the press," they tend to just shoot more.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the Sunhaven Treaty is not like Geneva Convention Treaty, because the Sunhaven Treaty is just about to not shoot unarmed medics, but the Geneva Convention is about more things. But we don't have that influence to do more than this.
All right. Well, thank you so much, France from the Red Cross. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you too.
Well, coming up next here, we have 1ARC and Solaire The Silent. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for calling in here in Zero Dark Press Corps.
Hello, I am a warden, as you can see.
Is this The Silent? He's talking.
Warden.
He's speaking. He is not silent anymore. Oh, it looks like his name is Solaire, totally a warden. I don't know if that's changed.
Yes,
has it changed on the stream?
Did I mention that I like how?
He likes what?
Hello.
I see. Do you have anything you would like to share with us?
Warden.
All right.
Okay.
He's a warden.
Perfect.
How representative of all wardens would you say you are?
So representative.
Extremely representative, like down to the common man and woman and from Siva among the warden ranks.
I am every.
It looks like he bleeds blue, boss.
I think he really does. Did you have any stories to share with us, Mr. Solaire the Silent? Did you have any words? Did you have any tales to share?
Warden once. I mean colonial. Yes, colonial. Shot colonial once. Totally warden.
So you had gun that went bang. So then with gun, how many number of green did you shoot?
So much. Very much. Like, I mean, like 10.
Was it small twig berry or big apple tree?
Big bear.
No grass. No grass. Just person.
Yes.
I think we have a breakthrough.
Did you receive bullet?
Yes, I had mag weapon, so I shot every colonial as warden, as you can see.
Did you walk through green clouds?
No.
Really, I couldn't tell.
I think he did. He just didn't know it yet.
I don't think so either. Can you smell? Can you use nose?
No. Head hurts now. Go sleep forever.
Yeah, we could tell. Anyway,
Outstanding.
coming up next, we've got a trio here, I believe. You've got Pyreliter, Lag, and ratmanjr of the Assault Support Services. Gentlemen, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. How are you this evening?
Hello, hello.
Hello?
Did I get this right, all three of you at once?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on the same
All right. Well, we're gonna have ourselves a little menage
Correct?
de five here at here in Zero
Is
Dark.
that a quinage? Is that the proper term for it?
I'll have to ask Akira, but I will say, gentlemen, the 36th conflict, a very contentious one, very bitter one. Did you have any reflections on the 36th at all?
I'll start off. Looked even. There were still echoes and repercussions, ripples from the last war, as far as for overpop, underpop, the queues.
The 35th. You're talking about the 35th?
Yeah, for population queues, logging in, home regions locked out. For Warden side, Blueberry side, can't confirm, deny on the green side. That's their side. But population pies, it looked steady. It looked like they were gaining ground on us. Looked like we had to go into defense mode. The most immediate mental facet was remembering to see that crumbling post was given to the collies from the get-go, and that irritated me, frustrated me. It compelled me to save our beloved Callahan's Passage at all costs.
All three of
That
your
was the first
wards.
couple of days.
All three of your
Yes,
wards.
yes.
Okay.
Always.
The whole clan's pretty much watered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, A.S.S is all warden all the time.
We have occasion, a couple guys might play colonials, just have some fun.
It's allowed.
So
But we had
Go
an
ahead.
internal sense of an internal code of conduct. We behoove them not to do the sniping. We behoove them not to share intel during active campaigns, and it's a gentleman's agreement when they go green.
Wait, so no sniping?
No stream sniping.
Oh,
or
okay.
anything.
That originates
It's highly,
though,
yeah.
That originates during Team Public Discord. So for those viewing in who are still relatively new to the Foxhole community, 2017 campaign mode, the Foxhole official Discord was getting its legs. People can come in there. They were going in there to the Warden Discord channels, the Collie Discord channels, and they were learning the game, learning it themselves, sharing their knowledge, sharing how to play the game together. And that was the Foxhole Discord 2017. That's how Team Public Discord originated, Warden side, and that was a band of non-aligned veterans stuck it through from 2018 to 2019.
Pretty much was most of the guys originally from A.S. or like second time because A.S. was actually teared down once and then came back again. Most of the guys are all from what we call the public.
From the public, so it's kind of a basic conscription here that you've managed to do a recruitment drive, kind of a fishnet approach.
Yeah, it really wasn't expected. It just kind of naturally happened, and we figured, well, we'll just all fly under the A.S. banner because we had to call ourselves something.
It was the nucleus of the Warden veterans, the esprit de corps, the camaraderie. That was the crucible, the official old public Discord Warden channels. Campaign after campaign, the collies would come in. They'd get envious and jealous. They'd try to do the collie side, and we tried to keep it, even back then, honorable, and tried to instill our own sense of community. 2017. Those fruits of labor are borne out when campaign changed to conquest, and when conquest changed to 2.0. That's why the Warden community, I think, is still carrying on because of those efforts 2 years ago.
I see. Would you say that the camaraderie? I'm pretty sure this is a loaded question, but did you say that the Warden camaraderie is a little tighter than the Colonial one, or do you think it's weaker?
I say it's pretty strong, actually. A lot of us have played together for about 3 years. That's longer than most people's relationships with their sweethearts. So yeah, we know each other. We know what we think, and we know what buttons to press and what to ask for, and we just know those things. That I think the Colonials are just starting to get the foundations of. They're trying to play a little catch up, but I have faith in them, and I think that in probably another few wars or so, we're gonna have some great wars here. Once the new updates and stuff come out, and I feel some great times ahead of us.
We're going to
Well,
start.
you did-
Go ahead, Moff. Go ahead.
Yeah, you did mention population concerns earlier with the last war. Do you believe that has a factor in the colonial morale right now, in their camaraderie and their cohesion?
I think a little bit. I've noticed near the end of the war they kind of dropped out a bit. The same thing with the last one, and most of the guys who play along still play, but we don't really drop out.
Yeah, Wardens usually don't quit, and that's how we get those amazing comebacks where they're like, "How in the hell did you guys
don't
do that?"
don't do the rose tint glasses on it. There are wars. I remember many wars in 2018 where Warden morale would drop. We just could not come face to face with the Goblin hordes, who would take most advantages of every mechanic currently of that mode. And yeah, there would be cycles where Warden morale would drop, bottom out. People would go off, play other games. It would take about a season, couple of real life months for the Wardens to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, remember what it was that brought them together, remember their faith in Callahan, their own created
Hail
lore, their own
Callahan.
created camaraderie. Well, but that's what kept the engine going. That's what kept the clans going, was the faith that a couple of months, you come back to it, you come back to those guys, and you just pick right up and win a couple wars.
Right. I was about to counter the whole notion that the Wardens don't quit. I was going to counter the fact that War 19 was kind of a very, very raw example of player population just completely being blindsided just by the events that occurred there. And I imagine it was a very terrible time for the Wardens at that point.
Yeah, the
I
Wardens, they quit so hard, they just chose a whole new faction to fight, which was themselves.
Well, I
This
would
is
say
true.
we very rarely quit unless we see it's just strategically just advantageous to quit.
I'm a bit
Let me
hazy
reframe.
on the memories, but I was there for War 19.
Yeah, War
I
19. Oh yeah.
Well, we're not gonna go into all that again, because we
Yeah.
for another
That's
project.
all in the
Yeah,
past.
Potato's working on a documentary all about that. But just in terms of the back and forth here, we mentioned it earlier at the beginning of the show. Mothman and I discussed it, but there is no written law that the war victory count must be even, or that if the Colonials win, then the Wardens have to win the next war, or that long strings of victories or defeats. That's just part of how the story's written. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it is what it is. You may lose, 4 in a row or 5 in a row, or how many ever in a row, or you might win a couple. They might win a couple, but yeah, it's not supposed to be like you're gonna win this time and we're gonna win next time. And no, there's none of that. It is what it is. Underpopped or whatever. I mean, even if you don't have enough.
But
people,
I'd interject that the sentiment currently distills from the old days when the neutrals, those non-aligned groups, they would group together themselves, and then they would dictate the terms of, okay, well, we went Colony this war, they won, let's go Warden next war, and they'll win. So that symptomatically led to a snowball in both factions, relying on that. Okay, well, the neutrals are on our side, so we'll win.
I think it's
one
safe.
faction.
I think it's safe to say that that is not how the developers imagined the game should go. That this kind of quote-unquote third faction. I mean, we don't have statistics on this, so we can't really say for certain, but the perception seems to be, yes, this kind of third faction that kind of floats between Warden and Colonial, kind of dictating who will essentially win or have a very successful, very enjoyable war for that time. That's not how they wanted to go. So I'll pose a question to the room, and is it, should we have neutrals at all? Should players have the ability to switch factions every single war?
Yes, they should. It gives people a chance to play with different people. It gives you a better view on basically each people do it, and even improves people's skills. So when you're do switch around a bit, you get let's see. Oh, the Wardens know good how to defend. Let's take some points and use it against them. The next war, we're like, holy crap, they just copied us. We're screwed. We must figure a way to crack this, and it proves the game more on the tactical side than it is for the actual thing.
Lag, what are your thoughts? Neutrals, yay, nay, ability to switch every war?
Yeah, I think they should be able to switch every war, but what I'm thinking is you should have the ability to pledge to your faction. So I would always pledge, to the Wardens for like 4 wars or whatever, because I'm always going to play Warden. I honestly don't even need to see the Colonial login side, but that's just me personally. People that want to do and play, back and forth, yeah, by all means, it's a great community, and they should experience all sides of it. Me it would be a disadvantage for me to do that, because I think people would be upset if I just showed up as a colonial as much trash as I've talked over the years.
Same here.
So I definitely don't think I'm welcome on that side.
So,
but the feelings
yeah.
are mutual, to some of the other people. So.
And Pyre, what are your thoughts?
Sigil, nice. Those community-driven, community-policed infrastructures should be encouraged, supported, policed. A little bit of peer pressure on both sides to incorporate the randoms, to incorporate the neutrals in various tiers of operation security.
But should the neutrals be allowed to switch every war? Or
Yeah,
have that option?
That was the long end and end.
Okay.
Not during a war, but in between the wars, yes.
Yeah, of course.
Because that allows them to foster between communities, to show that we are two sides of the same foxhole coin. I think somebody else wrote that in Reddit the other day.
Mm-hmm.
The Sigil group, the Sigil and the NICE, those communities, the groups themselves need to understand that if a neutral clan wants to join their groups for operations, there should be infrastructure, TTPs, tactics, training protocols inherent and placed, encouraged to allow the randoms, to allow the neutrals into current operations for war, knowing that if they go to the other side the next war, the vital in-house security stuff, the tactical strategic level pawpawing and hoobahing is still separated.
All right. Well, I'll challenge. I'll play devil's advocate here. So then, if players are allowed to essentially switch factions every 2 weeks, wouldn't you say there's something missing there? That you lose this sense of faction loyalty, this sense of immersion. That now you're not really participating in this grand conflict between these two nations. More so, just kind of people floating back and forth, and just kind of going willy-nilly in this game kind of thing, kind of like a 2-week round of a game, as opposed to participating in this genuine war that people are fueled by ideology and nationalism. Do you think you lose that? Because I also think to other MMOs, of which Foxhole is an MMO, but I also think to other MMOs, such as the Old Republic or World of Warcraft, that when you dedicate to the Alliance or the Horde or the Sith or the Republic, you can't really switch once you lock in that character. You're kind of losing that sense of pride of fighting for a faction. Aren't you losing something there when you can switch basically every 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, I definitely agree. There is something lost, but I think the reward for the people that actually choose to commit to a faction is greater in the long run. But
the reward in terms of what?
Okay,
camaraderie, cooperation, just good times, man.
Camaraderie how? Camaraderie how? Camaraderie how? The community itself?
Yes, a little bit of the community itself, but you also gotta look at this. If you look at this in real life, like actual real life, with the neutrals who want to go back and forth, mercenaries. So they play for money in thing.
Armed companies for
game. They're pretty much armed company to hire, and they like to be like that. It's kind of gives it like a mercenary feel a little bit. While the two sides who are dedicated wardens, who dedicated colonies, are like the actual two opposing nations. It's perfectly oblivious of what real life is.
I would counter that with, if you try to put that into the current makeup of Foxhole, it doesn't really work so much because one, there's no currency, so mercenaries aren't really fighting for wages, and two, with mercenaries you have that kind of sense of iffiness in terms of are they really loyal, but in terms of mechanics they're kind of locked in. So I don't know if that really delivers the same kind of effect that having a real life mercenary would have involvement in a war. I don't know.
Are you trying to segue into this third faction?
I am not. I am actually not segueing into a third faction because that doesn't that kind of doesn't really answer the question of should neutral. I mean, surely we have our answers already, but like, does that really put the nail in the coffin of, does the player base lose, or should there be a penalty, I guess, in terms of player profiles to switching? Because there's no personal progression, right? You don't have skills to upgrade, and certainly that's off the table. That's not even something the devs will consider. They have shot that idea down.
Yeah.
So what else do you have? I guess you have just that loyalty, that pure will. And even that is extremely fluid.
Something to express that loyalty or some kind of in-game equivalent to make it something in-game. Something feasible.
Okay. Well, I could be General Schmuckatelli of the Wardens, and then if I go Colonial, I'll just be Corporal Schmuckatelli of the Colonials. That's something that I would like them to pursue as the development team, is if you had a faction side rank, faction side tools, talents, and stuff. I know they want to go off the table, but when you do faction switch one side or the other, I think you should kind of have a soft reset that's tied to that specific faction, so that the more loyal you are as a Titan, or more Titan you are of a clan, of a faction, the higher your rank will be to the newcomers. So that we know if I'm always playing Warden, I'll be higher ranked than the Colonial.
I like that. That sounds pretty cool.
Because right now your experience and your level carries over. So if you never play Warden in your life, and you reach the rank of Major in Colonial, and then you switch to Warden, you're now a Major in the Warden army, and that doesn't really make sense. And you mentioned but even then,
I think you just the level, but the lose the rank, because if you play freaking nonstop, I know it's hard to get high up, and then over all the experience you have from that, you can still have, but you should be like a private, and basically it's like, okay, this guy definitely switched. So
that represents faction loyalty.
Yes, the rank should represent faction loyalty, while the basic time enemies represent
the game level itself is
your overall experience. All right, that's certainly a way to go. Pyre, you mentioned earlier, whether you're Corporal Schmuckatelli or General Schmuckatelli in whatever faction, but you're still Schmuckatelli no matter what. You know what I'm saying? You're still who you are, no matter who you fight for. So, isn't it kind of interesting that if I'm a Colonial soldier and I see, Schmuckatelli, he's on my side this war. And then the next war, I'm fighting him. Don't you think that kind of breaks the immersion? That kind of breaks one's investment, the kind of feeling of, we're full on at war here, as opposed to, he switched rounds for this match. I don't know. I think I'm harping on it too hard here, but you understand what I'm saying?
I do agree, because I feel the same way. Especially when you're playing with someone and you're like, man, I love playing with that guy, and then all of a sudden, you're looking for him the next war and he's shooting at you. I do definitely feel your pain.
And I'm
a little betrayed myself.
Yeah, go ahead,
Ralph. did that war, what was it, like Ward 9 or something? Like they transferred over from Warden to Colonials the first time, and we were like, okay, let's hunt them down. We were like, we're personally gunning for them. We had a bounty on their heads and all that stuff. We were joking around with it. It was the most funnest thing in the world, and we were hunting them down, physically hunting them down, which is the hilarious thing when they switch sides. So it has
I need to post that bounty for you guys. Let me find it. Give me a second.
So then the argument stating camaraderie, etc., that kind of goes out the window at that point.
Yeah, when you switch side. Yeah,
I will also argue the whole point of expressing the notion of camaraderie kind of goes out the window as well for certain wardens, at least when they come to the conclusion that the only thing they need to do is win. They don't really care about the experience with other people. The victory is all that matters to them. Which has been espoused a few times, not only in this latest war, but in wars previous. It does kind of set a precedent, at least for the attitude that people perceive that, it's difficult to state that camaraderie is the thing you fight for when big name people in your faction kind of don't subscribe to that notion. It's a bit difficult.
Faction loyalty. We're gonna make that a buzzword here. Faction loyalty, and in many other games it's presumed, but in Foxhole it's an option, which is extremely unique, particularly among MMOs.
It's not just to not be. It has to be nurtured. It has to be grown. It has to be cultivated like a crop in the field. It can wither and die.
I agree. But then, is it dead in the water? Did you already make that environment impossible for that plant to grow if you allow people to switch every single war? If you just present the option, just have a big screen that says Colonial Warden. All right, you were Colonial last war. Reset. Do you still want to be a Colonial, or maybe you want to try Warden? And when you present that to new people or to the same people, they might, every single time they might.
It's kind of the equivalency of taking a piss in the Cabbage Patch, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. I think we might be running in circles here, but faction loyalty. We'll explore that. Let's explore that in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right, gentlemen, if you didn't have anything else, thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating in this conversation.
Hey, Lake, I thought you had something about the FCL.
Yeah, FCL.
Oh, yeah,
FCL,
we actually, that's kind of the whole reason why I came in.
Oh, sorry.
Talk about the FCL. We did have a practice match today. It went pretty good. We had some of the normal players come in, and they practiced and slaughtered each other. So it was some good fun, lots of good hype for the FCL.
What is your prediction for this match coming up?
Me personally, weebs. It's
Sayu Setsuka. Sayu Setsuka, the Weebs versus FOD, the Foxhole Oppressed Division. And you're calling it in favor of the Weebs.
To me, the only thing, how did you get to Carnegie Hall? By practice, so I hope both teams practiced.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a few people that practiced from there. Some of their top shooters just sharpening their shooting skills. Beware those of you that didn't practice, they're coming.
It's true. It shows just in terms of cohesion, strategy, and just basic tactics 1v1. Or in I think it was, what's the team leader for Tox? Nemesis.
Nemesis.
He
1v3.
He 1v3 or 1v4 people in a house, and he managed to take down I think 2 or 3 of them. So that stuff can make or break.
He's on a 1v clip level.
In Nemesis' defense, he has practice, man. That guy's
he's known as a shadow dancer. Apparently, that's what I've been told.
Oh yeah, he's pretty much
won the competition last year.
He's good at everything. He can use anything that shoots at you. You just need to know how to handle someone like me, and it'll be fine. But yeah, if you try to 1v1 him, then you're gonna lose almost every time.
We'll see.
Pretty much, they like using me as a freaking shield while they go.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's see if we can 1v1 an armored car.
Hey,
but
Press.
yeah.
Yep. Press, thanks for answering tonight. Good luck with the rest of the callers, and praise be to Callahan.
Praise be to Callahan.
Good luck to you in the next war, gentlemen, and good luck in your match.
And there's that bounty post that we posted up there.
In the general chat.
Put it in the general chat if you guys want to have a laugh at that. All right.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, coming up next here. Just a reminder: if you are waiting in the lounge chat, waiting for us to call in, we have a caller order channel now. If you type in there just anything, a single character, then we can get you in instead of a queue, and we'll get you in as soon as we can. And following up next here is 82DK's Avitus. Avitus, thank you so much for joining us here on Zero Dark PressCorps. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Well, I haven't really played a lot of this war, but I'm really looking forward to some of the things that came out in the dev stream this week, I believe, or last week. The new model of artillery guns look amazing. When I first saw them on the stream, I was kind of hoping it was going to be like a deployable Pack 40 sort of variant where we could, shoot it on shoot it at tanks and stuff like that.
Well, one can dream.
One can dream. But I think we'll get there one day, hopefully. Yeah. So.
Yeah, did you have anything in particular that you wanted to share with us here from the past 36? I hear 82 DK, at least what I heard is that 82 DK was out in full force here for this past one.
Yeah, like I haven't really been playing over the past sort of few days, so I don't really know what's been going on over the past few days. But it's been the start of the war was very, very tumultuous for us because we've been mainly fighting in the south of the map, or we've been taking like southern maps and stuff like that through the last few wars. But we decided to take Callahan's Pass this war. And when we started there, the Colonials, I believe, started with a very, very questionable town. Was it Crumbling or something like that? I can't remember the name of the town, but basically, we only had one fort tower protecting our main logi lane. And the fact that we were able to get in there really quickly and secure that, well, I think it wasn't 82 DK that did that, but whoever did that, we owe them a lot, because without that, we wouldn't have had that opening section in the war where we did decently well. We did eventually get pushed back from Callahan's, and we retook it later on. I believe the next Saturday or something like that, 82 DK did a massive operation where we reclaimed the entirety of Callahan's Passage in, I think, 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that. But it was we shipped a lot of resources into there to do that.
What was the maximum amount of 82 DK on the field for this war at any given one time?
I mean, don't quote me on this.
Sure. You may inflate the numbers. We understand.
Well, if anything, I kind of want a degree. I would hazard a guess at about 45, 50, something like
45 to 50, okay.
Something around that, yeah.
And of this 45 to 50, or maybe 30 to 40, no, of that number, what were the subdivisions? Were there any subdivisions among the force?
If you're talking about sections, well, we have very recently with the logistics update, we identified the fact that infantry plays a far bigger role in this version of the game than it has in other versions of the game, because it's cheaper to throw infantry at a front line than throw tanks at a front line, or throw any type of shell at a fortification. It's much easier to try and take it down with small arms, or try and take it down with HE grenades or something like that. So it's far cheaper to throw infantry at the problem rather than throw vehicles and artillery and shells and resources at it, because those things are a lot rarer than they used to be. So we've been conserving our resources. We've been trying to conserve resources on the infantry level as well. So whereas before we would take a full kit to the front line and then we would die and lose it, now we, for instance, we take a squad to the front line. If we've got one HMG gunner, if we look like we're losing the fight, that person would be told to secure that vital bit of equipment. So they would fall back rather than fight to the death as they did before. And that's been working really well. We've split our infantry, whereas before we just had an infantry battalion, and then we sort of we split up into our different channels. Now we have two different individual sections of infantry. So we've got Skara section, which is led by myself. My second is Kazansky, and I've got two officers, what we call Kriegsmen, which is sort of like sub-officers. We've got Fly and Stax, which in Scarus, and then we've got Tempestus, which is Evie and Doc, that leads Tempestus, and they're our 2 infantry sections, and they've been doing incredibly well and adapting really well to the new logistics update and conserving resources and really learning the infantry game a lot better than we used to, and it's been really effective.
So you're placing a lot of stock in your officer corps.
Placing a lot of stock in our infantry.
Yeah, in your infantry. So then, what would you say? And we may have answered that question already, but what would you say would be the key to 82DK's success in terms of growing the group? Because 82DK, if they're not known for anything else, they're known for their numbers. How have you managed? How do you think you've managed to be able to grow to the size of which 82DK is, to be able to field 45 to 50 people on a single battlefield?
Greater good.
Greater good.
Yeah.
Something to rally around.
So, for instance, you have a clan, and say, for instance, I'm the clan leader, and Mothman here is someone I particularly don't really care a great deal for. We don't get on very well, and he's in mechanized and I'm in infantry, and I'm an infantry officer and he's a mechanized officer. Now, we really don't like each other, but what we do like is the clan. And therefore, do we argue? Do we cause drama in the clan? Do we get frustrated? Do I take my 5 guys and go and make my own clan? Does he take his 5 guys and go and make his own clan? No. What 82DK does is we have loyalty, and we have a lot more stability, and we're very lucky to have a group of people that value that above all else. So it doesn't really matter that if somebody doesn't get along. You know what I mean? They're not going to no massive drama is going to happen, because at the end of the day, we're playing to further the clan, not our own, not ourselves. You know, I don't know really how to put it, but we don't. We have things in place to sort out like any grievances that people have with each other. We have like official channels to go through, all that type of shit. And like, I don't really go into it. I'll be honest with you, I don't really deal with that type of stuff. That's more.
But your officers do.
I'm just an officer myself.
Oh, okay.
People above me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the upper echelon deal with all that type of stuff. I just deal with my infantry guys and make sure that they're charging those gun nests.
All right, so you're saying it's all about loyalty, not just to the faction, not just to Callahan, but to the concept of 82DK itself. That it is that strong that people are able to put aside their personal differences and stay together within this group.
I mean, as time goes on, it's a lot easier when you achieve things as a clan collectively together. The fact that you don't like someone really goes out the window. It all depends on how much you like the game. You know what I mean? So if you really love playing Foxhole, you really don't care if someone you don't like is over there. You know what I mean? And he's in a tank over there. You know, the fact that you're wearing the same tags shouldn't really matter a great deal, because you both love the clan that you're playing for. You know what I mean? You both like wearing the tags. You like representing the clan. You like furthering the clan's agenda on the game. You know what I mean? So I think that goes a long way to getting clan stability. But there's a lot of other things that go into it as well that I don't really know the intricacies of myself. But there's people that put their hearts and souls into running 82DK. The behind the scenes stuff that 82DK does, and the people that are behind it do, is absolutely amazing. I mean, we've got people running servers for us and things like that, so our Discord, never fucks up and stuff. We've got our own website on the go, and artists, and I mean, you've seen the art yourself, you know what I mean? So it's just we've been really lucky to land the group of people that we've got, basically.
So a very strong and active support system to reinforce everyone's belief in this concept of an outfit, of 82.
Yeah. Something that I see quite a lot, and I'm obviously not going to name clans or anything like that, but something that you'll see quite a lot is you'll see a clan of people, maybe 10 people, and then they'll be really struggling to recruit. So what they'll do is they'll have those 10 people, and maybe 4 of them will be officers, and then they want to recruit more, so they get a guy that's maybe, I don't know, a lieutenant or something like that, and he's like, oh, you're a lieutenant, well, you can come in as an officer into our clan. Now, it sends out really bad signals when you're offered an officer rank when you join in the clan. You know what I mean? That's like, in 82DK, it doesn't matter who you are, like, you could be, you know, a major general, you could be top rank in the game, you could be a developer yourself, yeah? It doesn't matter who you are. If you join 82DK, you have to go through the same training, you have to go through the same rank structure, you have to go through, you know, all of that, you have to work your way up. You know, it's not something that you just handed out. There's no, you know, you can't be handed out something. You have to earn your place in the clan. You have to earn your rank in the clan. So when you see people with, for instance, a staff sergeant in the clan, he's been in the clan maybe 2, maybe 3 months, something like that, maybe even longer than that, depending on how well he's played and how well he's responded to orders and things like that. So if you see that person and he's telling you to do something, and even if you're a major general and he's a private in the game, you know what I mean? That does not matter to 82DK. You're a staff sergeant, and you what we call a RIP, which is basically somebody that's in training.
Okay. So yeah, playing the game, playing it fairly, trying to keep drama, BS, and favoritism to a low. That sounds like good general advice if I've ever heard it.
Yeah.
Avitus, did you have anything else for us? Or?
No. I've been no. Just wanted to drop in and say hello again, guys. Great show. Keep.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for giving us a little peek into 82DK. Every week, I think we pull back the curtains just a little bit.
Yeah, well, we're still beyond the iron curtain. Don't you worry. But,
okay. All right. Thank you very
later, guys.
Take care of yourself.
Coming up next here, Zero Dark PressCorps. Like one of our last callers, unless we get a last-minute influx. Clockwise 2, welcome back. How are you?
Hello. Good. I'm good.
Do you have anything here for us here in the post-36th?
Yes, a discussion about, previously discussions from what even y'all discussed, what I've heard is about colonial vets and warden vets.
Okay.
I would like to discuss something about, let's say someone's trying to join this next war that's happening tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things that right now is preventing or just spiraling down on these like colonial losses is that they're having a hard time trying to convince new people, or Foxhole in general, trying to convince new people to play this game. Because
go ahead, continue.
Yeah. Because there's a lack of general information.
So we're talking about the new player experience.
Yeah.
Not only the tutorial, but the first few hours of regular play. Everything from the menu to your first very few seconds into when you first spawn in the home island, which could be anything. My goodness, because you never know who's around hanging out at the home islands, at any given moment. But yeah, the new player experience in general. That's what we're gonna hit in today.
Yeah. You said like first week. I'm like all the way up to the first month. You're pretty much it is a wonderful experience though. Like every day time you play Foxhole, you're finding out new stuff about the game. But
if you're lucky, it'll be a good experience.
Yeah, if you're lucky, it's a good experience. But most of the time, it's a bad experience because you find it out after. It's like, oh, I could have done this the whole time. Oh, this is how you make a tank. This is how you make a.
And certainly, I mean, I guess the term here, the buzzword is learning curve, of which Foxhole has a very high one. So what do you think is lacking in that new player experience? I guess we'll start here. So just bought the game, finished installing it, interested to see what's going on, hit play, go to the main menu, hit play. They'll pick a faction, doesn't matter which one for this argument, but they'll pick one, and then they're at the home island. What is missing in those first few seconds?
So starting from the first few seconds, I would say a general goal. It's kind of counterintuitive to Foxhole because Foxhole is mostly built as a sandbox, and you make your own goals. But I guess it'd be easier for players if they had a goal like, oh, first goal, kill an enemy. It's like, okay, gotta kill an enemy, and then you can figure out the steps between there.
I guess their first goal is to deploy, is to just get into the war, right? Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not even that. It's to go through the training course. Or maybe not. Maybe it's to get swept up in whatever mob is blasting music in and around the home islands, right? It's such an open book. One could say, if I remember correctly. Again, I try not to quote devs unless I can really nail their quote now. But the tutorial that is north, or I guess south, it depends on whichever island you go in, but the tutorial that is at the home island is not particularly well integrated into those first few moments as a new player, because the devs were not necessarily intending that tutorial to be the first few moments for a new player. It's there if the player wants to engage it, but if they want to ignore it entirely, they've kind of put it out of the way. Meanwhile, but then that raises the question, should they go through that tutorial? A fairly undeveloped tutorial, and maybe not the most ergonomic one, but should they be forced to go through it?
I'd say they'd be given the option to go through it.
Sure, and that's kind of what we have now, right?
Yeah. Well, most players, they don't know that option exists. New players coming in.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think it's more like, hey, I think that's like, there should be like some things. I know there's right now devs have made attempts to give players information right as they log in.
Mm-hmm. There are those windows.
As soon as those three windows that describe basic information.
But in my opinion, I think those windows are a little overwhelming. It's just kind of literally a wall of windows and text boxes, and it's not very fun to read. A lot of people just kind of, goes through that, glosses over. It's like, oh, okay, sure, WASD, whatever. But from there, I guess we could talk about the layout of the home island. Should there be a home island at all? I guess we'll even talk about that.
I would transform home island into a training island.
A training island, okay. And so then even veterans will pass through this training island.
Yes, potentially. I think ultimately you could have I think devs are pretty split on where they like home island. They like it for the environment, but some just want to log straight into the game and skip the queue going to home and then into World Conquest.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of this blend. I'm trying to really picture that plaza, right? You got the War Monument in the middle, the Town Hall, and those deployment tents, as well as that world map tent, which is kind of redundant, but it's there. I guess it's meant to be a sort of social area.
Yeah.
Not just for queues, because I know the joke is, well, yeah, you'll be very social when you're waiting in line for 3 hours, but assuming, there is no queue, even then it should be kind of a social area. Maybe?
I'd have it so right now the system is kind of designed where the home island is kind of like a general circle centered around the town hall, and then you have to go far away from the town hall, like way out of view, to go find the truck parking lot, the artillery, and the home island. No, not the home island, the training course.
Yeah, do you think the current home islands are kind of... There's a lot of wasted space, would you say?
I think there'd be a great change if the tent where you log into the World Conquest was actually quite a bit far away from the town hall where you spawn in. So that if you wanted to go there, you have to pass all these training courses, and that way you're able to see what you can do or you can learn.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right, because the deployment tents, we're doing like really open brainstorming here. So if this isn't looking smooth, that's what brainstorming is. But you're talking. So okay, I see what you're saying. You spawn at the town hall, put the deployment tents on the far side of the island, maybe not too far, but you know what I'm saying. and then put a bunch of stuff in between it so that someone has to pass through the training island, has to pass through the training course, the shooting range, well, whatnot?
Well, I want to say that like it'd be 2 corridors. Generally, like just brings like general. Like one corridor is just straight to it, but that when you're passing by the corridor, you can see the course and you'd be like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll go do that, and then I'll go to where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, like, let's say you're a new player going through training courses and you're seeing just like vets logging in, just running straight past the training courses. Like that's a nice experience.
Mm-hmm. I mean that's ergonomics, and we're really going into the thicket there. Mothman, and do you have any thoughts on the matter? Maybe not just that, but the whole new player experience overall.
So I kind of think when it comes to new player experiences, especially when you first log on, you do get given a small little kind of laid into a screen for basic stuff. But I do believe that because there is a training course on the island, I think new players should be motivated to do that first. I don't know how that could be implemented properly, but somehow rearranging the home island to allow new players to run the course, have that be the attraction for them first, and then have them head to the spawning the spawn map, the map location tent. I don't know. It is problematic when people start the game and they disregard the messages and they just jump right in and they have no idea of what to do. I think when it comes down to it, right now, the only way we can really mediate that problem is actually having a player dedicated to training new people.
Yeah, and that's kind of the stopgap measure that the devs have settled on, because in case anyone is thinking this again, that the reason why we don't have a full and proper tutorial is because if they had to work on one, by the time they are finished with more features, they have to go back and redo a whole other tutorial, and by then you've wasted a lot of time. So for now, the devs have pretty firmly settled on, yep, the community just kind of has to figure it out and teach themselves. We'll put a list of changes, but kind of figure it out for yourself. So I guess there really isn't much we can do in terms of the tutorial and that home island. But let's go now into the wider war. So maybe they've done the training course, maybe not. Maybe they're being guided, but let's say they're not being guided by a new player, right? They've gone through the training course. They know some very basics on how to crawl and how to move and how to aim. But when they go to that deployment tent, when they figure out how to get to that deployment tent, they click on a region, and they're there in the war. They're no different than the veteran who's been there kicking ass for a week, or for years, I should say. What happens there? What is missing? What are the myriad of things that can go wrong for that new player, and what are ways you can alleviate it? Clockwise, thoughts?
There's a lot of solutions for that,
Mhm.
but I think the simplest one would just be right now Foxhole's like kind of built just like an RTS. So just like an RTS, when you're starting an RTS for the first time, you kind of have, well, most of them have this kind of like helper tips that are just like automatically turned on, and every time you see something, that helper tip comes on, and then as time progresses and you know about the game, you can turn those tips off.
I believe there are a few tooltips that are optional if you hover over them.
That's true.
And I think those are always there no matter what. But you have to hover over them. So you're saying maybe make it a little more invasive for someone who's in their first few hours?
Yes, like way invasive.
Okay.
Like right in your, I would say, top left screen, right under your weapon.
Or maybe right next to the button, or wherever they're clicking, wherever they're paying attention the most.
Yeah.
All right, that's a thought. It might be a little too much reading, because maybe if someone's interacting so much with the refinery, with the stockpile, by the time they get going, they'll have read a lot of text boxes by then.
Maybe here's something a little outlandish and a little bit far out there.
And go for it.
Maybe create a tether system between an experienced player and a new player.
Okay.
Have the new player or the veteran player offer to tether with the new player. Like by tethering, I mean like they're in the same squad. It's a training squad. It says T, and then squad XYZ, and the officers that are in the squad, people that have a higher level at a certain point, they receive commends for that. Commends to spend. And in that regard, they can train these new people, get them moving on the battlefield, get them directed in a certain direction. I feel like that might be a really interesting way to kind of push new players in the direction of becoming what do you call it, a contributing member to the faction.
So kind of an automatic mentoring system that someone can opt in on. So I'll throw out an idea here, a sketch. Let's say I'm a veteran and I opt into the system where if there's a new player, unranked, first time in the field, or maybe if they're unranked who goes into the war, the game will automatically create an operation. It'll be called recruit training number 26785, and it'll just be him and me, or her and me, and we can talk through the operation, and from there on, that trainee is in my hands if I opt in, and just kind of at any given moment, if there was a new player, or a private up to a private, it'll cut off at some point, but whenever they enter the war, it will automatically create an operation, or maybe join an operation, and it can do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that initial burst of an idea?
I mean, that sounds really, really intuitive. I think, kind of, yeah, the player base itself is a good stopgap, but I feel like if you could incorporate that into the game itself, at least with the UI and whatnot and the squad system, you'd actually make the process a lot less painful, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I realized that the Pyreliter mentioned this in the chat, that yes, during large Steam sales, the community comes out in full force to train people. People actually schedule around the clock. Okay, you come here between 8 and midnight, and then I'll come here between, because he's on the other side of the world, midnight to 3 a.m. or whatever. And yeah, the community is reliable in those large instances. But I'm talking about we're in a lull. We're in between updates, and someone just through a happenstance of going through the Steam store bought the game by themselves, and now the community is kind of in a very quiet, subdued state right now, generally speaking, and then they're kind of lost to the abyss. So maybe something like this can help out. Yeah, maybe something, maybe not even an operation, but something with squad. I chose operations because you can talk to each other no matter where you are. I guess that could go in whether we rework with the organization structures and whatnot, but yeah. So I guess anything else beyond I guess auto pairing or a mentoring system for the new player?
I'd keep the same, the same themes on that idea. Like, it's in-game, it's instant, and it's generated by players, and that's good because like that changes, like the tutorial or the thing you need to know changes from war to war. But I think the step that needs to also be taken further is that, let's say you're a new player and you've logged on, but there's no veterans there at that moment online because everyone's asleep.
Right. So now you're screwed, right?
Yeah. So there needs to be like some like text-based or document-based way to record like not a large guide, but like a small, like one paragraph guide on things that a vet could leave and players could read.
Yeah, so in that situation, maybe more of a traditional tutorial may be in order. Well, I should say maybe not it's in order, but that's where a traditional tutorial where whenever you boot up the game for the first time, it brings you through this out of the way level and it's a fully voiced tutorial. That's kind of the benefit of that, in that everyone is guaranteed to go through that tutorial no matter what. But Foxhole doesn't have that, and I understand why it doesn't. But yeah, there's many different ways to go about it. At some point or another, people will fall through the cracks, and you just have to hope that someone is nice enough, or that person is intuitive enough to kind of figure things out. But You know, any other ideas? We could brainstorm this all night.
Well, we currently have the I don't know what it's called, but the post system in game where you can like write on any write on the
Yes.
map.
Oh, I forgot about
people
that.
can vote it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Expand on that and have a bit more longer and a bit more permanent, so that actual helpful tips are upvoted and new players can read them, while the ones that people just write to troll or ones that aren't really needed, they're just kind of left in degrade.
But isn't that contingent on the community itself to do that? Like, so if it is helpful, most people will know to upvote that. Whereas if it's not helpful, I mean, that's kind of just self-policing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of where that lands. But I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
Pyreliter's got some good insight into that. He says,
let's just bring him in here. Hold on. He's still
Yeah,
Hey, Pyreliter,
you are in
there?
here.
Maybe he doesn't want to talk. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. We just figured he was typing so much. Maybe I think he's scrambling to get his microphone out right now. He's saying, yeah, they're usually, this is Pyreliter's typing, they're usually a community-driven training core that pops up on each side of those large team sales. Yep, we talked about that. Not sure about a persistent cadre of mentor/newcomer mechanics. I would encourage more dialogue about the opportunities for the periods between wars, for themed skirmishes that could be tooled for community/factions to train low ranks on all sorts of different combat scenarios like water, mechanized, artillery. Well, there's a thought.
Yeah.
I guess take advantage, since we don't have a very fleshed out resistance phase right now, take advantage of that space to maybe come up with a scenario. But that doesn't really seem like a permanent solution. And maybe there isn't some sort of magical, very slick, easy solution here. At the end of the day, it comes down to the player base, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it does. Yeah.
I think taking Pyreliter's idea further of just like skirmish-based combination with vets and new players, I think something that would really help was like a bi-weekly, like one map, 3-hour session in which vets like organize and deploy like high-level vehicles or high-level equipment like mortars, artillery, tanks, gunboats, and just show that to new players how to use them. And at the very least, if they don't learn how to use them, they've seen them and they know what's possible in the game.
Yeah,
They're
maybe.
familiarized.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, maybe.
Right, because currently the scarcity drives choices, strategic, tactical, and with the impetus of scarcity being the norm, people are afraid to give the non-rank in a RPG. The people are afraid to give a long rank a fucking half track because how are you going to get another one? So if you interjected opportunities for training that the community can then guide, lead, herd the cats, to introduce them, to familiarize them, to teach them, guide them, establish that mentor role, the community of veterans teaching the newcomers so the newcomers become the veterans of tomorrow. That's what I would like the period between wars to be until 1.0 full release.
So maybe not a permanent solution, but perhaps now. I'm a little hesitant, and I speak from experience when I say I'm a little hesitant to implement something that is, say, scheduled classes on a separate server. Maybe not even a separate server, but just scheduled classes during a specific time. Maybe putting too much stock in that could be dangerous, just because those don't flesh. There's a lot of energy and gusto in planning and formulating and organizing around scheduled classes, but the returns usually are not worth it. There have been several, and maybe this isn't exactly what you gentlemen are talking about, and that's fine, but I'm simply saying that there have been several training organizations that have popped up over Foxhole's 4-year lifespan. And, it's a lot of effort, a lot of planning, a lot of sitting down in meetings, and then by the time you get to it, maybe 7 people show up maximum, which is good for those 7 people. But, it'll never beat, as Pyro, you were saying, it'll never beat fishnetting 20 people per session on a Steam sale. Something more seamless, something more natural. Yeah. So yeah, hey, you know what? If the community can rally around organizing something for maybe replacing skirmish, maybe yeah, it's certainly worth a shot. But in terms of more seamless and more integrated tutorials, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's a magic bullet. I don't think so.
I don't think there is either. I think it's going to have to be a combined approach between.
I do like Wise and developer. Yep.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of persistent map markers for newcomers on maybe like the home region island. Say, hey, look, this is the vehicle farm. This is where you can drive a truck, drive a Jeep. Go drive it around. I'll see you on the war front. Once you got your fucking driver's license from the motor pool, come see Colonel Schmuckatelli and he'll issue fucking orders on.
Yeah, maybe if those training groups, of which again I was a part of, we put in all these efforts into outside scheduled classes. Maybe integrate it more. Maybe create an alpha. I think is there already something? Is that Angel group? Is that help group still around? If you are, comment. But maybe something more integrated. Yeah, so maybe an outfit that is dedicated to that. They have an open operation where it's called newbies. Join this op or something, and then they have a map post. We're gonna do something around here. This is for newbies only. And then they kind of it's a little more. It's scheduled or not scheduled, but it's a group still doing it that formulates around just doing training, but now they're kind of integrating it into the world. Maybe an enterprising group wants to do that beyond the home region. You can do it more integrated into the world.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think you have to give it I would go a bit further with integration, because right now if you're a new player and you're trying to find help, you're lucky if you find it in game, and you usually have to go to Foxhole under Discord or to Reddit or to Steam guides to find help.
Right.
I'd have it whenever those training sessions are starting, that new players are actually notified by a world announcement that's happening.
A world announcement. Okay, so I guess that would have to get some sort of mod involved, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even then, I don't think that'd be a step forward, but I don't think that'd be the perfect solution.
Right.
Because
it's another stopgap measure.
I think it would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Because I know, if I was a new player and I was there's an announcement about this event, but I want to go because I'm in the middle of this battle.
Right, of course. And again, I want to stress that a lot of the suggestions we have here, they would be opt-in. So certainly if you're really intense on this operation and you're deep behind enemy lines, you don't want newbie Ned here talking in your ear through an operation suddenly get paired up with him. That may not be the greatest experience. But gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in here again. Did you have anything else to touch on this? Any other ideas?
No.
Yeah, well, again, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what brainstorming looks like. It's very messy, got some awkward pauses, but it is what it is. Thank you, gentlemen, for partaking in it.
Right.
Okay. Brainstorming got us salvage mines. Brainstorming got us harvesters. Brainstorming got us warehouses and depots, gents. It's a long process, and I was bitching at the developers for 2 years, and I want to give them credit where credit is due. They don't listen to me, but they listen to everybody else. So keep interjecting on the things. Thanks for tuning into Press. I wanted to give you guys one more shout out for continuing on with this community-driven stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pyre's message here: be an asshole to the devs. If you're an asshole to the devs, they'll eventually cave in and give you what you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely, guaranteed every time. All right, gentlemen. If you didn't have anything else here, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Moth. Anything here to close out for? I think this is the first time we've ever actually had a proper closeout with no one left calling.
Yeah, I think we do have. I think I have a couple of closing remarks just in regards to the meta itself. If you want to delve into that and break kayfabe.
I'm going to put the A.S.S. goat here in the middle. But
oh
continue.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. That's goat. So last night the population numbers were somewhat low. I mean, we had a total number of, wait for it, drum roll, 76 people.
Total people.
Total.
Mm-hmm.
That was the total number, I think, as of 3 in the morning. And mind you, yes, it's low pop hours, but at the same time, that kind of speaks volumes about how many people were online before then. I guarantee you it was probably twice as many before then. And I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with the scarcity itself. Just the scarcity update kind of really put a wrench in people's plans. I mean, you can look on the subreddit, you can look on FOD. People are talking about that, and not always in positive light. It's kind of it's kind of a bugbear that's been getting on everybody's shoulder as of late.
Yeah, no, to say anything else would just be straight up lying. It's a tricky decision. It's a tricky call for the devs, because I think it's safe to say that the devs introduced a new direction for the game, particularly in terms of logistics, and they introduced a hard shift in not just the meta, but how everything flows. And
Exactly.
I don't think they did enough to alleviate that hard shift in how the whole game works, or how the whole game is paced, how it flows. And
I mean,
that hard shift just rocked everyone to their core. No, I'm kidding, but yeah.
Well, it really shook up everybody, I think, on both sides, and it did really kind of leave an impression on a lot of people, so much so that they've made posts on the subreddit saying they're not going to come back for the next war, or they're done. I won't name names because you can look on the subreddit and they're there.
People are always saying that, but
yeah, of course, yeah, people will say that and they come back later, so it's to be determined at this point whether or not they mean it. That being said, I will stress the fact that the direction that the devs are taking in this game is a very interesting one, and I do believe that they are trying new mechanics and they're trying to figure out what fits, what doesn't. But I would say the way they've implemented the changes just so drastically is it's a far cry from what the war used to be, the pace of the war used to be. You could go back 10 wars before this update. Let's go back 10 wars. What? 26, War 26, the really short war, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, yeah, that was a really short war, but there was a capability for everybody to actually, stack their mats and whatnot, and actually make some wartime production that was actually beneficial to the war effort. I remember a post or a picture that somebody posted that it was literally just an entire star fort or star base rather, just full of ACs, just waiting to be taken. Like, just the wartime production was insane. You could just pick one up, it already had ammo and fuel in it, and you could just go. And that isn't there anymore. The scarcity has really kind of created a detriment to the ability for factions to create, blitzkrieg style offensives. Now everything's a lot more methodical and slower paced.
But it couldn't be said that's the intent. That was the intent behind the changes.
Yes, that was the intent behind the changes, and I think it's because people were complaining about getting steamrolled, and it's almost kind of like at this point you damned if you do and you damned if you don't, and I see that in the logic with everybody, supporting the change for scarcity, and honestly, it's one of those things where we have to kind of figure, well, whether or not this is worth complaining about, or if this is going to remain going to be the permanent change. And so far, it looks like it might be the permanent change, and I think people just have to adjust their play styles. And it may not be what everybody wants, and unfortunately, that might mean people will leave. Honestly, if it comes down to that, then the people that do stay, honestly, are learning to adapt and change their playstyle according to that. I think there's a lot of touch and go right now, and I think it will be touch and go for the foreseeable future.
I think it's important to keep in mind that for the developers, at least how I perceive it, is that there's a difference between, or there is a direction, and then how you go that direction. Those are two separate things, right? So I actually agree that scarcity in general is the way to go, and a more methodical, gameplay. That actually does sound more exciting, more investment, more enticing. But how they did it, maybe it was just too much too fast. Maybe instead of 20 to 1, they could have done 10 to 1. That's literally what everyone's been parroting right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, and you know what? You're right. And I think at this point it's too late to go back.
We are past the point of no return. It's at this point
It's been this way for over a month now, right?
Yeah, we just have to write it out and see.
Yeah, to go back would be folly.
Exactly.
At that point, you're just wasting you've wasted everyone's time, including the people who stayed.
At first I was really upset about the changes, but now it's just kind of like, I'm still upset about it, but there's not much I can do about it. Yes, I can complain about it. I can waste my breath.
Yeah.
But
when the changes first came out, you were like Herbert, the FFL goat here. Look at his face.
Yeah, that was my face. Explicitly, that was my
everyone's
face.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Yes, that big face, big look, big mood.
Absolute disbelief.
Yes. So I think right now it's just touch and go, because we don't know if it's going to change, if they're going to change the ratios or anything like that. But I do believe that maybe that might be the way to go if you want to try and get people back in, try to give some validity to people's efforts in terms of mining, logistics, and combat.
Yeah, I'm going to make a prediction and say that they will backpedal a little bit, but we are never going to see logistics free-flowing as fast and immediate as they were before Update 26. So when you were saying, a sea of armored cars ready to go like a car dealership, I don't think we'll ever see that again, at least maybe until, say, more people join the game overall. And it's a very fleshed out, extremely fleshed out economy. But those scenes are probably going to be rare from now on. And I don't mind that, because that sounds like a big goal to attain.
Yeah, I can guarantee when full release comes out, I think people are kind of hedging their bets on saying that, well, when full release comes out, we'll probably see the production like we saw before then. It may take some time as opposed to what it was before, but maybe we'll get to that point again. And I think a lot of people are just kind of wistful about that.
I think so too. Yeah, there's a goal, but there's also how to get to that goal, and there may have been some discrepancy there in terms of the dev rollout. But hey, that's just for the community to decide, and we're just a couple of Joe Schmoes here.
Pretty much.
All right, do you have anything, Mothman?
Yeah. For those of you that are participating in the next war, good luck to all of you. I hope to see you on the battlefield when I go out there with my press releases. Please don't shoot me.
They will, but yeah, please don't. All right, that was Zero Dark PressCorps. We put up on the PressCorps Foxhole Desk YouTube and circulated around. Thank you so much for listening.
Tune in to the Foxhole Competitive League this Saturday, August 31st at 1100 Eastern Standard Time, as 4 teams prepare to hit the ground for the first time here in Season 4. Soyusetsuka versus Foxhole Press Division, and Armored Cavalry versus the Vanguard. What lessons will the teams learn from last week's talks and nice victories? Who will emerge victorious in this 3-hour 20v20 on Fisherman's Row? Tune in to the Foxhole Competitive League this Saturday, August 31st to find out.